Hey guys, what's up? I've been having a conversation with one of my patrons over these last couple of days about Metazoo and actually investing in Metazoo at this point. And, I thought I'd kind of put my thoughts to a video here. There's a really good channel called Nick Strength and Pokemon, and he seems to be the only person on YouTube who still covers Metazoo at all since it failed in February. Everyone else has either disappeared or moved on or hidden all their old videos about Metazoo or one way or another just quit covering it. Nick's Strength and Pokemon is the only one who keeps updating on the bankruptcy proceedings and the apparent attempts of people to buy out the company from bankruptcy and do something with it. It's not entirely clear. I think it's all conjecture because we don't actually know who's attempting to buy it out of bankruptcy right now. But to the question of my patron, now that Metazoo boxes are much cheaper than they were before because the game has failed, is it reasonable to buy some as a bet on the game coming back? Because imagine a possible future where somebody buys Metazoo out of bankruptcy, they then own the IP, they own all of the product that's floating around still at distributors who want to get paid for storage. There's apparently some product at the printer in China still that they haven't been paid for, which would be probably tied up in that bankruptcy. And so if somebody were to buy the whole company, get all of those assets, they could continue with the development of the game, release more expansions, and do all the other kind of IP tie-ins, both Metazoo things into other media and other IPs into Metazoo. The problem I have with this of thinking that because the boxes are cheap, there's some kind of good bet, is one, the game may not come back. We don't know who the people bidding to get the IP and the assets out of bankruptcy are. We don't know what their intentions are. There may not be anyone doing the bidding who's actually interested in bringing the game back and running it as a going concern. It's possible, though just conjecture, that maybe the people bidding on it just want to get all the physical product that's still out there. There's apparently a ton of physical product out there that's part of this bankruptcy. So there's also a lot of grail cards, a lot of developmental product, and a lot of essentially what you might call Metazoo artifacts that might be valuable to people who really love to Metazoo. So there's the risk that even if it makes it out of bankruptcy, it doesn't get all split up amongst a bunch of different creditors and bidders, that the people who eventually own it don't really care about bringing the game back. And if they don't bring the game back, then long term, those boxes are not going to perform very well. The other big problem was part of the reason Metazoo failed in the first place. The gameplay wasn't that good. Nobody regarded the game as fun, as interesting, as tactically innovative, as great deck building strategy game. The game, by all accounts, was kind of mediocre. It's kind of silly and not that great to play. And so even if somebody gets it out of bankruptcy, brings Metazoo back, starts printing new product, comes out with new expansions, without a fundamental overhaul of the gameplay to make it fun, then it's never going to have the legs underneath it to build the kind of TCG network that is required for it to be investable. And, that was a lot of the reason I never spent a single penny on Metazoo, is because it never had a reputation as being a fun game or interesting. And then it was tied up in the whole terrible Stonk Bro era of 2021 and 22. And, that's kind of a separate thing. But at the foundational level, these games have to be fun. They have to have a player base, which is people who will put money into the network regularly. That's players and collectors and investors. And then in the long term, the people who take money out of the system are investors and card stores and distributors and the game's creator. And so it didn't have that foundation of players. It definitely had collectors, and there were people who loved it for the artwork and the kind of retro faux nostalgic feeling it had, where it kind of felt like those old 90s card games with the art and the card design and everything else. They're definitely collectors, but it never had the player base. And so I just don't see that, even if it threads the needle, if it gets out of bankruptcy in one piece or close to one piece, so that the assets are still mostly together under whatever new entity is brought about, and that if that new entity then actually wants to continue developing the game, you've still got the problem that people just don't like playing Metazoo. So I do not think that, even if the boxes are cheap right now, you should be going out and even taking a risky bet. It's just not worth it. I see the potential odds of payoff as so low that just about any amount of money put into it is not worth it. You know, if you liked Metazoo and you loved opening the boxes and you loved the feeling of the cards and stuff like that, go buy some boxes. I mean, they've gotten a lot cheaper now. Go buy some and just treat yourself and open them. I mean, that's what Nick from Nick's Strength in Pokemon does. He does streams where he just opens the product and he's just enjoying it because it's super cheap now. It's cheaper than it's ever been, and you know, he really loves the product, and go do that. But speculating on it coming out of bankruptcy and getting a second life, I do not think that's going to work out. Let me know what you think, guys. I mean, yeah. Thanks a lot.